Hello, and welcome to our 8th Energy Chat. I'm Valerie Dudley, a Community Energy Advisor with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Delaware County. And today we're happy to have Adam Flint, Director of Clean Energy Programs at Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow, to learn about the benefits of heat pumps. Thanks for being here, Adam.
It's a pleasure, Valerie. Thanks for inviting me. So would you like me to get started at this point?
Yes,
or?
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Sure. So my organization, the Network for Sustainable Tomorrow, is a small nonprofit that been around since about 2008, and we have a number of different programs, including our energy programs. Let me just advance these slides. I just wanted to let you know that if you're interested in joining us for our full programs, we have 2 coming up in December and 2 in January. All information from this slide deck is going to be available on the Facebook page for CCE Delaware, so you don't need to take detailed notes if you're watching. And as I mentioned, the Network for Sustainable Tomorrow has a number of different programs that we work on, in addition to clean heating and cooling, which is heat pumps and energy efficiency. We also help people go solar, among other things. And so today I'm going to talk about what is HeatSmart Southern Tier, why that is useful for you, a little bit about the heat pump technologies, incentives and financing, and how you can access these. So HeatSmart Southern Tier is funded by the New York State Energy Research Development Authority, which is New York's energy agency. Is one of, as you can see, quite a number of community campaigns across the state of New York to educate the public about sustainable heating and cooling systems. And one of the reasons why the state is pursuing this, of course, is to try to bring down our greenhouse gas impact, and buildings account for 1/3 of that. So it's an important area to address. HeatSmart Southern Tier's benefits include reducing energy costs, increasing your home comfort and safety, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and increasing overall community awareness of clean heating and cooling technologies. Our program covers weatherization, aka air energy efficiency, as well as 3 kinds of heat pumps. And we work with competitively selected partners. So we're a nonprofit organization funded by the state to be a independent, neutral third party. We do competitive selection process that involves a request for proposals and interviews about the companies, their business practices, experience, certifications, and all that. And so these are our partners for home performance and energy efficiency. It's the Insulation Man based in Binghamton. For ground source heat pumps or geothermal, it's Daily Geothermal. For air source heat pumps, just in Delaware County, we're working with D&D Refrigeration. And for the rest of our territory, which includes Tioga, Broome, and Shenango counties, it's Air Source LLC. So just a quick note about weatherization, because it's really an important first step to make sure your house isn't leaking the heat that is being generated before you replace your system. You want to reduce, obviously, energy consumption and costs, but there's also a health and safety element here. When you get a heat pump, you remove combustion systems from your home. You no longer are burning gas or oil or propane. I have one of these systems in my own home, a geothermal system, and I used to burn oil. So there's nothing to leak, nothing to be delivered, nothing that's burning and giving off gases. And we also live in a pretty moist part of the country. And when these assessments are done, it's one thing that they look at to make sure that you don't have moisture issues. So you want a house that doesn't have a bunch of arrows showing leakage of air in and out of your house. That's air sealing that they do to make that not happen, to make sure that all the heating you're paying for stays in your house. So let's talk a little bit about heat pumps. One of the things I often do in our webinars is I'll ask participants, do you have a heat pump in your house? Most people say no. That's in fact not true, because you do if you have a fridge. Basically, your refrigerator and freezer, they're insulated boxes with heat pumps that pump heat out of that box, which is why it's warm near your refrigerator. And so heat pump systems will take heat either out of the ground or the air or the water and bring it into your home, or they will do the reverse. In the summertime, they will take heat out of your home and put it outside. So that's the compression cycle. And they use a compressor in order to bring that heating up to the level that we need in order to be comfortable in our homes. So there's three kinds of heat pump applications I'm going to talk about. One is ground source heat pumps, or geothermal. Another, air source heat pumps that are often referred to as mini splits. And then heat pump hot water heaters, which basically are electric water heaters with an air source heat pump on the top. So with ground source heat pumps, there are actually a great many ways in which this technology can be utilized, but the most typical way in which the ground loops are constructed are either with a closed loop horizontal, where you have a trench or sort of a field where the pipes are laid, around 4 to 6 feet under the ground. Then there's coolant circulating, or refrigerant circulating in there, or it can be vertical, where you have a few wells. That's what I have. I have two 275-foot wells. And so the temperature under the ground is always above freezing. And that is basically where you start in terms of the amount of heat that you can get out of these things. And then the compressor brings that up to heating temperature. Ground source heat pumps are very, very efficient systems. They can be 4, 5, 6, even 700% efficient, meaning that for every unit of electricity, because these all run on electricity that you put in, you can get 4 to 7 units of heating or cooling out of them. The systems last a long time. The loop fields are generally guaranteed for at least 60 years. The heat pumps themselves typically will last 20 to 25 or longer. And as I mentioned, you will no longer have fossil fuels in your home. These systems are designed to replace your current system. You can leave a system in place for backup sometimes, but these are whole house systems. They can also help you with your domestic hot water heating needs. Air source heat pumps use the air as opposed to the ground, and people think, wow, that's magic, because how do I get heat out of air that's 10 below zero? Well, the way that works is there's a refrigerant in those heat pumps that boils at a very low temperature, like minus 85 degrees. So that refrigerant is still going to be boiling at minus 10 degrees, and that heat is conducted and amplified by a compressor, and therefore heats your home. You've undoubtedly seen these around. You have outdoor units, and then you can have any number of indoor units, and there's a number of different styles depending on what aesthetic you want and the nature of your layout. Like ground source heat pumps, there's energy savings here. One of the things that is an advantage of air source is that it's a little bit more flexible. So you do not have to change your entire house heating system. If you have 1 or 2 rooms that are not quite making it, you can do that. Also, you don't have to make use of your existing ductwork. And that can be very advantageous in cases where the ductwork is not suitable for geothermal or air source, or would be very expensive to upgrade, because these are umbilically connected between the compressor and the head units. You have a lot of zone control. Both of these systems are quiet. And one thing to really stress is that you get really cheap air conditioning, especially with geothermal, but also air source, far more efficient than conventional air conditioners. Finally, we have heat pump hot water heaters. This uses indoor air to heat your hot water as electric backup for high demand. These are much more efficient than typical electric hot water heaters and provide dehumidification. Just going to talk briefly about incentives. There's a lot of numbers up here, so just going to remind you that this presentation is available on the Cooperative Extension of Delaware County Facebook page, and you can also contact us through our website at nynest.org. But basically, there are incentives for ground source heat pumps that can give you up to $6,000 or $7,000 off, depending on the size of your house. And then for air source, it widely varies depending on the size of your system, but it can be from $500 up to several $1,000s. There's also incentives available for hot water heaters. For tax credits, there's a 26% geothermal tax credit. You would have to consult your tax professional to make that official. That is going to go down to 22% after the 31st of next month. And there's also a $300 heat pump hot water heater incentive, which also, that one goes away entirely at the end of this year. There are no federal tax credits for air source. As far as financing is concerned, in addition to your own financial institution, the contractors have relationships with specialty finance companies, and also NYSERDA has a variety of loans that are fixed rate unsecured loans, meaning there's no collateral needed, up to $25,000, and the interest rate depends on your income. I'm not going to go over right now the what we call the income eligible programs, but might do that a little bit later in the program. So if you are a low or moderate income homeowner, there are some fairly robust programs available to you. Finally, the way that you get this process started is you go to our website at nynest.org, or you give us a call at 873-9220, area code 607, and sign up for one or more assessments. You can get just one, or you can get all three. That's energy efficiency, air source, and ground source. You'll get a quote for the energy improvements, and none of that will cost you a dime. Then if you decide you want to sign a contract, you have a discussion about incentives and financing, and you can go forward with getting work done. So that's the end of the formal presentation. We can talk a little bit more about it, Valerie, and see what questions you have.
Yeah, thanks so much, Adam. I've been learning about heat pumps. I have spoken to a few people about these incentives, and when I mention it, they'll say, "What's a heat pump?" And so I have, my fast answer is yes, it's a refrigerator in reverse. Some of the people wonder about, what temperature, like what's the lowest temperature that a heat pump will work, because heat pumps have been more common in southern states in the past. And so I was wondering how they work up here in the north.
Sure. So the first thing to say is the ones you see down south are not cold climate heat pumps. Those are cooling climate heat pumps, so they're different. And we're talking about air source heat pumps. Cold climate heat pumps have been used in Northern Europe and in Canada for a very long time. The United States is actually very far behind in deploying these technologies. So in Canada, our nearest neighbor, you'll find thousands and thousands of people, both in commercial and residential buildings, that are meeting their entire heating needs with either air or ground source heat pumps. Oftentimes too, people will have heard rumor of a bad install, and they will think that that is actually how these things work. These have to be installed properly. These are not overly complex, but they're different than installing a conventional oil boiler or furnace or a natural gas heating system. You really have to understand what you're doing. So yeah, you can get either an air source or a ground source system, meet all your cooling needs down to whatever temperature is necessary. The one thing I can say is that you have to use more compression. You have to use more electricity for the heating as it gets much colder. The efficiency is reduced, but you're still going to be warm. And actually, these systems are really good at keeping heating and cooling nice and even. You don't have the phenomenon that you often have with fossil fuel furnaces, where it turns on and it sort of blasts heat for a while, and then it shuts off and does nothing, and rinse and repeat. This is just sort of even going on as long as it needs to go. And they are controlled by state-of-the-art thermostatic controls. And in the case of ground source heat pumps, in most cases, there's the ability of the installer to actually monitor your system remotely. And some repairs can take place without them having to set foot in your house.
Is it like the installations on the walls, do they actually blow air?
Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I would call it gentle blowing. Mm-hmm. If you see, I just brought up the slide there. The wall mount is the one that people typically see. Mm-hmm. This is the least expensive variety. And I actually have a couple of these upstairs because I have what's called a hydronic system. That is, I have baseboard. And obviously you can't do much cooling with a baseboard. So I have these air handlers. And yeah, they blow air, but they're quiet. And, you know, they will typically just blow as much as needs to be blown. And then if, you know, you reach the temperature, they'll shut down. With geothermal, it's much more in the background. And then also with air source, as you can see, there's this ceiling cassette. This photo doesn't really do it justice, but these can actually be between the joists in your ceiling. So all you would see is that thing there. And there's also these other approaches, the floor mount or the mini duct.
Yeah, that's very interesting about the evenness of the temperature, because actually we have use a wood stove part of the time, and it can get very hot. And so we're always like fiddling with the stove, trying to make it the right temperature. And then of course, when we go out, we can't, you know, do anything much to keep it, you know, the house then will get really cold when we come back. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's one application that we get now and again is people who are not in their houses a lot, although that's not as true now as it has been in the past.
Right.
Now we have a lot of people that are putting these systems in because they're home all the time and they want to be more comfortable. But sometimes, you know, people have a second home, or, you know, there'll be snowbirds or whatever it is. And, you know, if you have a system that requires you to feed a wood stove or a pellet boiler, that obviously isn't going to work out too well in the wintertime. So you can just basically leave this on, and you can control these remotely also, right, with your phone. So you can see what's going on, and if there's a problem, then the repair person can come and deal with it. And so even if you're down in Boca Raton or something and you see, uh-oh, something's going on with my system, then you can ping the repair person to come and deal with it. You won't have to take a plane up and have it fixed.
That's an automatic application? Just to have
so with geothermal, there's a system that allows the contractor to be able to monitor from afar. With the air source, the customer can monitor. I don't know that the contractor can, but you can control your system. So for example, if you're if you're away for a long time, you may drop it down to 55 degrees, but you want to come home to a warm house, you can set it to fire up a few hours before you come home, and up it goes.
I have heard recently too that it's good to maintain the temperature like at night or when you go out with a heat pump, because it takes so much energy once it does drop to bring it back up. So it takes less energy to leave it at a certain temperature.
Yeah, it's a set it and forget it sort of thing. So if you're just going out to work every day, then it really doesn't do anything for you to drop the temperature, 5 or 10 degrees. Part of it too is that it takes time for these systems to change temperature. They're really designed to change temperature gradually. Whereas a fossil fuel system, it can just go from 0 to 60. And the other thing is that you really don't save anything by doing that with these systems. Right. They are so efficient that sort of incremental difference is really,
that's a different mindset than
it's a very different mindset. Yeah, it is. And, people often are a little bit leery of trying something that they're not familiar with. And so, one thing to also say is that when you talk with our installers or with us, we can point you to examples of work that's been done. In fact, I think the December 3rd program, so we can get back there, I'm pretty sure that's going to be that's the December 12th, December 9th is going to be a virtual home tour regarding insulation. We already did one case study with daily geothermal, and that is recorded on our website.
Okay.
On the 3rd, there's going to be another case study as well. So you'll have that opportunity. The homeowner will actually be on with us.
That's exciting. I would like to see that. We have some customers and a lot of people in Delaware County, they're low or middle income. And I did want to ask you about the incentives real quick, but I also just wanted to ask about heat pumps for mobile homes. A lot of people are in mobile homes. Are they effective?
So with mobile homes, what's true with regular homes is even truer. You absolutely have to insulate them first. And there are ways to insulate mobile homes. So yes, you can, I mean, geothermal, I don't think is a thing with mobile homes. With air source, yes, you can do that. And you know, if your income is low, normally it probably would be a bit steep, but there are some really generous incentives that are kicking in next month. They're basically at two levels. One is if you qualify, and I'll start with this one, if you qualify for SNAP or TANF or HEAP, this is basically free stuff. You can get insulation done. You can, starting next month, you'll be able to get some money off heat pumps. And there's also other stuff, light bulbs, electrical stuff, that's all free. And then there's a new adder incentive that, depending on the size that you go with the heat pump, with Empower, you can get multiples of $3,000 off. So it's really, it's a pretty hefty amount off. That works for anybody who has under 60% of area median income. The next level is for folks who are considered moderate income. And for that program, there's something called Assisted Home Performance that gives you 50% up to $5,000 off. There's expanded eligibility until the end of December, which brings eligibility up to 120% of area median income. We have these numbers on our site. But for just to give you an example, a family of four making under $76,752 would qualify for this. And there's also incentives available for owners of small residential buildings, 2 to 4 unit. You can get up to $10,000 based on your tenant's income. And then the adder incentive for heat pumps is in multiples of 1,500 and 3,800 respectively for air source or ground source. So what we tell people is get an assessment. It's free. This is a lot of numbers that I'm throwing at you. You can go on the website and look at our presentation, and this is also available now on the Cooperative Extension website. But the best thing to do is get a free assessment for one of our competitively selected partners, and then you'll know where you are for your property. Because if you're in a mobile home, you have a different situation than I did in my 3,700 square foot house. Obviously different size, different price, different construction. So it's best to just get the assessment that's free, and then you'll know where you are.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a great opportunity for all of us to learn about the benefits of heat pumps. So yeah, if people are interested in heat pumps, they can go to the website at nynest.org. You can contact Adam Flint at 607-873-9220 or email him at adam@nynest.org. Adam's contact info is also in the comments. People can also call me at 607-865-6531. My information is in the comments because I can also answer questions about energy efficiency, the free energy audits. I can connect you with somebody, a contractor, a NYSERDA certified contractor, solar energy and renewable heat incentives. Just want to let everybody know that this Energy Chat is brought to you by a grant with NYSERDA, and information about energy incentives can be found at smartenergychoices.org. Thanks everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks so much for having me.